Let's move on to the other story that we are looking at today, which is the new government's education reform program, bringing in foreign universities, setting up IITs in every state, considering a review of Delhi University's 4-year program. It's as ambitious as its deadline of 100 days to implement some of these measures. Now, why couldn't the UPA make good on its own education promises? Will the new government face the same obstacles? Joining me to discuss this, we have Nalin Kohli, who stays on in the studio with us. We have Karishma Thakur, who is the secretary of the Delhi University Students' Union and an NSUI leader. Professor B. Thimmegowda, the vice chancellor of the Bangalore University, and Janaki Rajan, the former director of the SCERT as well, joining us. I want to take this first to actually the young lady from the NSUI who is going to be joining us. But Nalin Kohli, let me take this to you first. An ambitious plan, 100 days to bring in foreign universities, for example, is that going to happen?
You have to wait for the 100 days to get over. You can't answer that today on the day of the announcement. But why not? And here's the counter question. And I often say this, just because you've not seen decision making at a hectic pace and follow up, that doesn't mean it can't be done.
It's not so simple about decision making and a follow up. The fact is there was opposition to this by the left. This is something that also had to go through the Rajya Sabha. The NDA doesn't have those numbers in the Rajya Sabha. How would you take everybody along on this?
Fair enough. The questions may be fair. But as for, why do we that's for the government managers in terms of, the parliamentary affairs minister, all of them, they're experienced. And of course, the government understands these issues. When they are saying it, they will obviously look at all of that and then say it. I don't think we need to really worry about the last step. Let's just get down to it, get down to work, and that's what's happened with this government. Ever since Mr. Modi has been sworn in as Prime Minister, the ministers have come in the cabinet. On a daily basis, you will see they are down to work. Okay. And I think that's the basic spirit. That's what needs to be seen. Let's wait for the 100 days to get over.
Let's get Janaki Rajan, who's the former director of the SCERT, in on this debate as well. I want to ask you actually what you make of these two proposals really. One is to set up IITs, IIMs in every city across the country, and the other one is to, in every state across the country rather, and the other one is to bring in these foreign universities within 100 days. Do you think that's feasible? Do you think it's ambitious?
Not only is it feasible, it should have been started a long time ago. I mean, given our population and the kind of higher education systems that we have, it's minuscule. And obviously a lot of things that happen in terms of elitism happens not because of societal divide so much as the institutional mechanisms. You don't have enough colleges, you can't have enough higher education students ready for the workforce. So absolutely, and you look at any country in the world, people with 1/100th of our population have 100 times more higher education institutions of every kind. So absolutely, it is necessary.
Right.
All I would like to say is that institution building is not something you can do in 100 days. It's not quick fix, it's not walking faster. Institutions take hundreds of years to build, and I think we need to factor in this. Research is something that's a culture that needs to build, and it takes time. So I'd just like to say whatever we start now has to last the next 100 years.
And has to sustain itself as well over...
Nor was Nalanda University, nor was MIT. Everything took years and years and decades and decades.
Okay. Professor Thimmegowda, I want to ask you, we're looking at sort of bringing in new universities, setting up new institutions. What about trying to sort of fix the existing ones?
What we are trying to do is we have restructured our undergraduate and postgraduate programs to bring in holistic approach that integrates skill and specialized training with the values necessary to make a student into a better human being and a useful member of the society. What we have done is we have brought in a lot of flexibility into our system. The student can get admitted to an undergraduate program to begin with, and he or she can exit after 2 years with associate degree or advanced diploma, after 3 years the usual undergraduate degree, and we have made it our 4th year degree as optional. It is for the college to continue the 4th year or not, and we have also restructured our postgraduate programs to have an exit option after 2 semesters. Therefore, the first year of the postgraduate program is actually the 4th year of the honors program. Therefore, in the system what we have done is we have not disturbed the existing equilibrium,
Right.
but at the same time, to cater to the needs of the meritorious students who wish to go abroad, we have brought in the flexibility so that the students after 2 years of the program, it is like an integrated program. When one gets admitted to a program,
Yeah.
after 2 years get the associate degree or advanced diploma, 3 years a usual undergraduate degree. After the end of the 2 semesters of the postgraduate program, that is the 4th year of the program,
All right.
get the honors degree, undergraduate degree in a subject.
Thank you,
If they
Profe-
continue for the 4th year, they get the master's degree.
Okay,
Therefore,
Professor Gowda,
in the
hey,
process,
Professor
they will
Gowda, I
also
can-
get a degree that is equivalent to, yeah.
Okay, I can see Karishma Thakur here in the studio shaking her head at some of what you've said. Karishma, what are your responses right now to this?
I want to say that the 4-year undergraduate program which is going on in Delhi University, we have done a referendum, I being the secretary of the Students' Union. We went there, we met around thousands of students, and we thought that it would be good and students will be liking it. But talking about that, there were the people who were against it. Students don't want it, though they are the benefits that the students are getting bachelor's degree and diploma, but they are of no use. Students are completely against it, and I feel it's very ambitious that inviting the universities over here.
But as a student in the university as well, don't you think that you would want to sort of benefit from the kind of experience and expertise those universities might bring?
I personally think that we should first improve our culture. Why are we copying the other countries and we are inviting them over here? The Upanishads, the Vedas, they are the origin of education. India has given the origin to education, and today we are seeing that Mr. Modi wants to copy them. So I would like to say, first of all, I am shocked that Smriti Irani ji, who is the HRD minister, is just 12th pass. She has not done her graduation also. So she must first complete that, and she should understand that students over here have been doing a 3-year program graduation, and this 4-year program is causing a lot of problem.
Okay, Nalan, I want you to respond to this.
Well, certainly. I think the last comment, we'll start from the comment on Smriti Irani ji. I think that's an elitist comment coming from a student who is actually representing university student council. To say that shocks me beyond this. She should probably, my suggestion would be to read the Constitution of India. That will be my starting point. That will be a good education for the young lady here. Since she spoke about the Vedas and the Upanishads, it will, I think, be a good comment there. I don't think that's really justified. The second point is, and if I go by her own standards, many people in the Congress party, whose student wing is the NSUI,
Right.
the young lady represents,
Yeah.
would not be even anywhere close to governance if that standard was to be followed. And I think it's very elitist, number one. Number two is in terms of whether, I think education, and I think Janaki ji in the beginning also made a valid point, institution building is critical, but we need to be looking at each one of these sectors simultaneously. I don't think it can be a linear approach. While yes, there may be an expansion and going back to ancient thought, going back to also studies of the Vedas and all, that's a good idea. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to suddenly brace your entire structure only on that.
Okay.
You need to move on all. Where the third part is about the 4-year course, which was coming up. I think even if there were merit in the idea, the implementation has left so much to be there. There's a lot of people across the stakeholders do not wish to have it. So I think the lack of thought and implementation has happened, and whatever we do has to be with a larger perspective. You can't introduce one certain format in one university and suddenly the others are left in the lurch.
All right, let's go back to Janaki Rajan on that. Ma'am, you've just heard a student of the university basically talk about how these things are not required right now, not necessary. How do you feel when you listen to what Karishma Thakur has said?
Yeah, I think I'd like to make 2 points. One is with regard to the Delhi University 4-year program. In the 1960s, when the Kothari Commission spoke about the 10 plus 2 plus 3 years, and as you know, at that time we had several different combinations, there was a lot of discomfort. But I think what was important at that point was a very clear, transparent rationale provided for each thing that happened. And definitely the time taken to move over to another system was much more than what happened at the Delhi University. The other issue is about there is a trust deficit. There are students who have said there is no point repeating courses which we've already done before. Now that's a voice you cannot ignore, and it was so easy for a university as large as Delhi University to have thought of alternative ways in which they can build upon their own already available knowledge and skills. So these are small little things that could have been easily ironed out if there had been a larger negotiation in terms of ideas with teachers. And as you know, in academia we do have wars. We've had the math war, we've had the science war, and then you can have a 3-year and 4-year. Differences of opinion are not a problem. But it's important to listen to everybody and try and see what you can do to really address concerns. Half the time, I'm afraid in India, we only listen to our voices. We just do not go into the merits of what the other person is saying.
All right.
Very quickly, I'd like to talk about the foreign universities. I think it's very important to say this. I'd rather look at them as international universities rather than, you know, Indian and foreign, which is a kind of colonial way of looking at it, which is not currently all that relevant. There's no knowledge today which does not go across the world. If at one point India was the hub of knowledge, then Persia was the hub of knowledge at 10 AD. And via Greece, all that knowledge went to the West. And today, what we have is what we call is Western knowledge. Is based and grounded on all these ideas. So there are really no borders for ideas. But in terms of universities coming into India, we have this mental idea that they are Western universities. Read British universities or American universities.
That's a very
I think it's
interesting
important to understand that there are excellent South Asian universities,
but you make a
which
very
are also most welcome to
interesting
come
point
in.
about
But
this
we have
foreign
to negotiate
universities.
with each one.
I'd
like to make this very important point.
Yeah.
What are we going to teach the students? Whom we are bringing in should not be part of politics of knowledge. It has to be something that is genuinely ground built and which can be tested in our country. It's not just, this is the hype and this is what we're going to give you as the module and everybody does it. We still have a colonial mentality. If a white man says, if Harvard says this is good, we can't accept it uncritically. And but every discipline has a different set of expert universities.
Right, ma'am.
So please, let's not look at it as university.
All right, Ms. Rajan, one moment. Karishma Thakur, I want to ask you, you're talking about the fact that these foreign or international universities are not required, the government should not be focusing on them. Who is the HRD minister to make these comments? But these proposals came about under the UPA government. In fact, it was a Congress minister who actually first talked about these things as well. You're turning that logic on its head by your position today.
You're exactly right that when the government was there, then this proposal came. But we did not just oppose it, no, it is wrong, it should go back, we don't want it. We did not do it at that time. Everything needs a time. We did about 1 lakh referendums, we met many students, we had filled feedback forms. The students had dead against it. They don't want 4-year program. And the point is that when we go to
I'm asking about the foreign universities, not specifically the 4-year program. You said just now, why do we need these universities in India? We've got the Vedas, we've got the Upanishads, we need to learn from our own fount of knowledge and not take what other people are bringing in. But as Janki Rajan is also saying, knowledge is international, knowledge travels across borders.
Shouldn't have any barriers.
As a student, wouldn't you want to access that knowledge?
Why should our Indian knowledge not go to other countries when we have...
Nobody is saying it isn't going both ways.
When we have the best doctors, we have the best engineers. Out of the 18 doctors, 14 of them are Indians. I want first the Indian education should be improved. Otherwise, like we say that Kaua chala hans ki chaal aur apni chaal bhi bhul gaya.
All right. So your point is foreign university is one thing. Indian universities need to be improved first. The Prime Minister has laid out a fairly ambitious education reform agenda. But what about fixing what the problems are today?
Well, I mean, I think it has to, well, I mean, there are problems, no doubt. There are multiple problems. Let's start with the first one, which is, can we just talk about the admission process today and how many students don't get admission? I mean, is that a reality or not? I think if you just go back to the Knowledge Commission's report, which was under the first UPA 1, they spoke about 1,000 universities needed. Logically, that means about 2 universities in every district of India. At the moment also, we are restricting education. The same goes for... So you need to have a larger approach. I think Janki ji made a very fair point that you have to have it has to work for the country first, but you don't have barriers on knowledge. There are good things to learn from others. There are good things to share with others too. I think, you know, some of our institutions have set the standards that people like to compare and say that, yes, this is where India comes from. The third point is, in terms of, you know, if we were just to look at the knowledge of the Vedas,
Right.
and we look at Upanishads, I think there are ample studies showing that the number of Sanskrit scholars in Germany or the
In fact, some
USA
of the
are
best
significant.
teaching on Indian
and
studies
the best,
happens overseas.
exactly, and some
Yeah.
of the finest
And
knowledge
we
that's
should be
coming
happening- that
is
should be
coming because of the
happening in India.
contribution of those people.
Right.
So I think we are
Okay.
looking at it very inwardly without applying our mindfully towards
well,
it.
100 days, let's see what actually goes off on the ground. Nalin Kohli says wait and watch. So we will indeed wait and watch. In the meanwhile, thank you all very much. I'm completely out of time on this discussion. Thanks for watching. The buck stops here tonight.